The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
A wise girl once told me the Edmonton Oilers are never going to win again. And that wise girl was my 3-year-old daughter. Ha ha, suck it, Oilers.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, the co-host of Locked On Canucks and also Canucks writer since 2013, currently with the Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into today's episode, we got to thank you. I'm talking to you for tuning into Locked On Canucks. You know why? Because it is your Canucks every damn day. We're part of that Locked On Podcast Network. They're doing the most for sports fans across the world. And for our show, if you haven't done so already, make sure you go subscribe, like, follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You know, we ain't here without the sponsors, and today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. It was one of the best battles of the 2024 postseason, and the battle continues as we talk about who's had the better offseason between the Oilers and Canucks. That's the lead topic on today's episode. We'll also maybe touch on the rest of the Pacific Division, specifically the contenders, because Calgary, we don't care about you. San Jose, Anaheim, what? The Ducks? The what? No, we don't care about you either. But first and foremost, it's the Oilers, it's the Canucks, and I'm also joined by my co-host, it's Kyle Bow. How's it going, brother?
Man, oh man, we're doing this. We're still talking about the Oilers. Some people probably think we're still butthurt, and last time I checked my butt in the mirror, it still hurts. It still hurts, man. So I spread those cheeks wide open, and yeah, it still hurts, man. It still hurts, man, because we got effed by the Oilers, okay? We lost in 7 games. It's just the truth. That being said, they didn't win the cup. So we pretty much are on the same level, if you ask me, okay? 31 losers, 1 winner. It is what it is. Kyle Bound, Trevor Beggs at the Dondos Art Lab, giving you Locked On Canucks. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. And man, oh man, let's get into it. And I think if we're going to get into this, right, comparing the summers that's occurred for the Oilers and the Canucks, how can we not start off with Stan Bowman, right? Stan Bowman, the new guy in charge after Jackson. Mr. Jackson, is that his name? I'm sorry, Miss Jackson.
I am for real.
After that dude did a great job in the offseason, okay? Skinner, Arvidson, a couple other pieces, keeping a lot of the guys that helped them get to the finals. Yeah, things were full of celebration in Edmonton. Post loss in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and there's Stan Bowman getting hired. A lot of people are throwing that karma card around, right? The karma card. Oh, look what's going to happen to the Oilers. It's not going to be the same. They're going to wreck that organization, okay? By adding those people, the bad people, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing, people. And I'm specifically talking to Canucks fans who are hoping that the Oilers are going to pay a price, right? A universal price for hiring Stan Bowman. This is the same team that has Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, the same team that also almost came back from a 3-0 deficit in the Stanley Cup Final, okay? There's a lot of character in that room, and I feel as if they still have a little bit of gas to get over some bad juju, okay? Straight up, the Oilers are going to be a good team. And again, with Skinner and Arvidson, they're going to be better up front.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that they got those guys on, pretty reasonable contracts too. I mean, that made them kind of immediate winners of free agency when we were all analyzing it at the time. But I do like what the Athletic came out with about a week after free agency, kind of ranking which teams did the best, which teams did the least in terms of value added to their roster. And, it's no surprise really that, most of the top teams on this list are the bottom feeders from last year because nobody opened up when you suck. Like the Chicago Blackhawks were the analytic winners of free agency, if you will, with everyone they added. They didn't lose anyone of significance because it was a team full of AHLers. But 2 of the top teams that improved this offseason in terms of the playoff contenders were the Nashville Predators were one, but it was the Edmonton Oilers and the Vancouver Canucks. And they were actually neck and neck on this list. at 16th and 17th overall. And Edmonton's offseason, realistically was fairly quiet in terms of bodies in, bodies out. They replaced Ryan McLeod and Warren Fogle with Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidson. Also get prospect Matt Savoy as well, which was an interesting move for a team where now I wonder if they have a bit of a hole at third line center. Like Ryan McLeod was that guy for them. But obviously they kind of like the offensive upside of Savoy, but I don't think it makes them a more balanced team necessarily. So I still have questions about the Oilers' forward depth, but I do like the guys they added overall. But you look what the Canucks did by comparison, and the Oilers got 2 forwards in, 2 forwards out. I feel like the Canucks just added and added and added. Like, yeah, they lost Lindholm and yeah, they lost Zadorov. But look at the forwards that they've added to this team up front. I mean, they've added Jake DeBrusk, Danton Heinen, Kiefer Sherwood, now Daniel Sprong as well. So you've really replaced Lindholm and Mikheyev with 4 different forwards who can all play in NHL games. And Kyle, you talked about it last week. It's now shoved a guy like Podkolzin further down the lineup as well.
Yeah. Depth pieces, right? I think when you look at it that way, you kind of, I don't know if we're tricking ourselves with the whole quantity and quality are the same thing here, and the Canucks happen to also play the quantity card, because I think there's a lot of people in the NHL world who look at Skinner and Arvidson and what they could do in that top 6 for the Oilers, and also pair that up with who they'll be playing with and see miraculous results, right? They see career years for both of those guys. And Trevor, again, to touch on the quality thing now, if the Oilers get the best out of Victor Arvidson and the Canucks get the best out of Jake DeBrusk, who has the better player?
I think it's Jake DeBrusk. If the Canucks are getting the best out of them, it's Jake DeBrusk. Victor Arvidson is 4 years old now. He's had a bit of an injury history as well. Look, I like what the Oilers did in terms of buying low, right? They got Jeff Skinner at a bargain because he was bought out. He did not have a good season last year. Victor Arvidson had a good season when he played, but he didn't play most of the season, right? But, I look at the ceilings of those 2 players who, again, are, I know you're going to slap me for it, but on the wrong side of 30, just like you and I, buddy. But Jake DeBrusk, I think, if Jake DeBrusk can hit his peak in Vancouver, and, we talked about it before, every dayers know, there might be a potential for Jake DeBrusk to be not quite on JT Miller's level in terms of the success, but maybe there's some untapped potential there, right? If he consistently plays in a top 6 role with a center like Miller or a center like Pettersson, because, in the past when he played with Bergeron, that's when he had most of his success at the NHL level. He was pushing a point a game, not last season, but the season before, mainly playing with Bergeron. So, and the Canucks paid for it too, right? Jake DeBrusk should be the guy with a higher ceiling than Victor Arvidson, because last time I checked, Victor Arvidson signed for 1 or 2 years? I can't even remember now. Where Jake DeBrusk is now a Vancouver Canuck theoretically for the next 7 years. So I think if Jake DeBrusk does have the higher ceiling, and the Canucks damn well better hope that that's the case.
Yeah, I think hoping, praying, manifesting that is so important, because I realistically speaking, if I'm looking at the best film from Victor Arvidson and the best film from Jake DeBrusk, I'm actually putting them on par. They're both different players, but they're both top 6 impactful wingers. And if Victor Arvidson, wants to get paid, he wants to resurrect his career, he's in the perfect environment. He is. He really is. I also want to compare Victor Arvidson and the best of Victor Arvidson in the past to Niels Höglander. Maybe we'll do that in a couple days here on Locked On Canucks. Trevor, another thing that happened with the Canucks and the Oilers in the offseason and all this change, we brought this up a couple times, how the Oilers and the team, they were so happy. They were so happy, right? That their rival, the Vancouver Canucks, got rid of Lindholm, okay? They also got rid of Zadorov. Some of that pizzazz, some of that physical nature, some of that bullying that the Vancouver Canucks were able to do with the Oilers at some point may be gone. Now, again, we brought up the fact that they have Kiefer Sherwood, Jake DeBrusk, hard players to play against. I wonder if the top-end talent and us not having the Zadorov and Lindholm, again, in the eyes of Oilers fans, has them questioning everything the Canucks did, right? For real. No, straight up, because it's not like they were watching the Canucks for 82 games, right? They weren't watching what Zadorov did in the regular season or Lindholm. They watched what they did in a 7-game series against their team, and they're like, we're supposed to be scared of this team that got rid of both those guys and replaced them with Kiefer Sherwood and Vincent Desharnais. You know what I'm saying? And to some extent, that's kind of valid.
Yeah, I think it's valid for a 7-game stretch for sure. But look, the Oilers really couldn't overpay for guys because they were capped out. But even the Canucks, who had cap space, their situation would have looked a lot different if they paid for Lindholm and Zadorov. And we kind of touched on it last week. Go check out that episode as well. Where we talked about, what if the Canucks decided to re-sign Lindholm? What if they decided to re-sign Zadorov? I think, not re-signing Lindholm was a really, really smart decision. I think signing Zadorov was probably a smart decision, but when you look at this defense, it's fair to question that as well. And the defense is the biggest Achilles heel of the Vancouver Canucks moving forward. But, you look at even signing Vincent Desharnais, who, in the playoffs, I don't think you and I were a big fan of his. But look who they replaced him with. They replaced him with Josh Brown, who's like analytically been one of the worst defensemen in the NHL over the past 3 seasons. So it's like, sure, they got another big body in there, but it looks like Vinny D, at least in terms of the numbers, is a much better defenseman than Josh Brown. So, look, the Canucks had more money to spend. They should be the winners of this offseason between these two teams. And, I think there was someone tweeting it out too, like from off the bar tunes, talking about kind of the additions, right? Edmonton's average age of their additions, 31 years old. Playoff point average, 0.13 per game. The Canucks are double that in terms of playoff point per game average. Average age 28. They've added more goals, more points to their roster, more playoff experience. Look, they always had 87 games of playoff experience. 0 of those have come from Jeff Skinner, by the way, where the Canucks just added 220 games of playoff experience to their roster. So that's one of the crazy statistics to think about as well.
Okay, so let's touch on this, because maybe we'll touch on this overall rivalry and what these two teams did again in the summer in a couple of minutes. But the fact that the Edmonton Oilers went to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals and they're like, you know what, we need Stan Bowman and we need Jeff Skinner. You want to talk about bad voodoo? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Now, Trevor, like, go off a little bit. Like, do you think there's a chance that the drama, in my opinion, to some extent, some unnecessary drama, like, why not just like hold off on making a big name GM hiring and just kind of like letting your players figure this out versus, again, bringing in Bowman and the noise and the cameras, and Draisaitl has like less than a year left on his deal and McDavid has 2. And like, do you think there's like a small chance that I don't want to say karma's going to play a toll here, but this could be a distraction? Because again, this is the same team that has a lot of character. They almost came back from a 3-0 deficit. They made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. Like, what do you think happens in regards to those things connecting to each other?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to save most of the take for the other side, because I think there's a big reason why the Edmonton Oilers actually lost the offseason compared to the Vancouver Canucks, and it has a lot to do with that guy you mentioned, Stan Bowman. Hey, my that wise girl I talked about at the cold open, that was my daughter. She said it best: the Oilers are never going to win again. More about that on the other side. But first, let's shout out our friends over at FanDuel. All right, you know the deal. It's July 30th, okay? Sports, there's not much of it going on except the Olympics, baby. And, FanDuel, if you want to bet on the Olympics, they got you covered, okay? This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus a daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long, okay? I think the latest Olympic updates, you can bet on all the sports, but the Canada women's rugby sevens, they're off to the gold medal game. So shout out to the women that are every woman playing rugby, Kyle, is tougher than you and I, even with our illustrious and non-illustrious ball hockey careers.
Yeah.
All right. So if you want to bet on Olympics on FanDuel, make sure you go to check out the FanDuel.com or the app and start making the most out of your summer. And if you like Major League Baseball, well, guess what? FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
People, we back doing this at the Don't Those Art Lab, and that's giving you what? Locked on Canucks. My name is Kyle Bowman. That right there is Trevor Beggs. One love to the program that gives you your Canucks every day. Yes, in the summer, every day. And also, man, one love to the West Coast Bias, man. This studio, man, just doing it, man. Giving out the goods and resources and the product to the people, okay? For real, on the low. Because why? We got to look after our neighbors in one of the most expensive places ever. That's Vancouver. For real. And let's keep talking about this, right? The Oilers versus the Canucks, man. Trevor wants to talk about all these other Pacific teams because we got to fill up some airtime. Dude, we could talk about the Oilers forever and the Canucks. This rivalry is real. I was looking at tickets for the Oilers games, the Oilers versus the Canucks, like their first matchup at Rogers Arena. Tickets are like $800. Like this is it. This rivalry is going to spark something completely new in this chapter or in this book of our hockey experience, right? This is going to be a brand new chapter. McDavid and the Oilers versus Pedersen Miller and the Canucks. It's going to be fun. It's going to be full of drama. Speaking of which, Stan Bowman again, the boss of the Edmonton Oilers, bro. I heard that these guys didn't even talk to McDavid about this. Like, I feel as if the writing is on the wall for this could be catastrophic. Okay, not that I care too much about it for real, even though I do want the rivalry to last, and that would need two good teams to, make that into something. But dude, like again, this kind of seemed unnecessary, man.
It was completely unnecessary, and it kind of fits the Oilers' MO, to be honest. I think they are trying to become the most hated team in the league, and not for a good reason either. Corey Payne and Evander Kane on the roster. Now, like, you go and hire Stan Bowman. Look, come on. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of GM candidates out there who haven't been all mucked up and, a sexual assault cover-ups. So, I mean, like, I just think it's a terrible, terrible look for the Edmonton Oilers. And again, this is one of the best teams in the NHL. You got a GM who's lifted the cup before. And yeah, I just think like the Oilers got egg on their face all over this one.
Well,
and I could see the season going south. And I could also see them having a great season. I mean, look, they've got one of the best teams in the NHL. But I do think there's some bad karma around here with Stan Bowman at the helm. And I mean, it's just so unnecessary, man. And I hated the Oilers before. Now I really hope they crash and burn, man, at the Oilers.
Man, like again, Stan Bowman, former Stanley Cup champion multiple times, blah blah blah. But there's that stank on him, and again, a lot of that has to do with everything that happened with Kyle Beach and whatnot. But even if you're looking at it as only from like a hockey point of view, bro, in the last like 5-6 years, this guy's just been so bad at pro scouting and making moves and whiffing a ton. Look what he did at the latter half of his career with Chicago, right? Everything from trading Panarin for Saad and trading everything for Seth Jones and signing Seth Jones to like the most expensive deal ever. Did this guy really deserve it? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's surprising to me. It really is that they chose to bite the bullet for that level of talent. I feel as if there's like a small to big chance, whether karma is involved or not, where this guy kind of reeks like Peter Chiarelli.
Yeah. Oh man, Peter Chiarelli 2.0. And yeah, no, you make a great point. I think aside from the off ice stuff, Stan Bowman made some pretty bad decisions as he tried to keep the Chicago Blackhawks together. And ended up kind of driving that team into the ground. I mean, he definitely hung on for way too long. It was a little bit Jim Benning-esque, if you will. But yeah, like to the first point, like there's so many other candidates out there, right? Like I'm reading this article from HeavyHockey.com.
Jim Benning. They should have hired Jim Benning, bro. Jim
Benning would have been a better hire than Stan Bowman, man. Unbelievable stuff.
Bro, you know what? Like, honestly, if the Oilers don't make the playoffs, like, let's say again, you never know. The hockey gods are watching and, like, something bad happens to the Oilers where they're just not the same team. Like, the chapter, we talk about books and, like, history books, like, the chapter written on, like, that 12-month stretch for the Oilers and everything to do with Draisaitl and McDavid and Bowman, like, it would be, again, so fascinating to read. Anyways, this is the Canucks show, okay? This is a Canucks show. Locked on Canucks. Patrick Allvin. I gotta ask this question, okay? How, based on like what other teams are doing in the division, based on what happened with the Oilers, again, the division rival, they beat the Canucks, all this jazz. Allvin then loses Lindholm, loses Zadorov. Like how impressed are you with, again, his composure, his confidence, his communication to ultimately still ice a pretty good roster after, again, losing two big pieces? Because I feel as if a lot of Vancouver Canucks fans are not used to like levels of competence, right? They were still not like familiar with the fact that like Alvin's a pretty good GM, and in a pressure cooker situation where things weren't really going his way with his two biggest fishes, he was still able to add. And at the same time, look at what the Oilers are doing; they're adding as well. They're keeping guys like Croak and Brown and all this jazz. Like it just felt as if the Canucks needed this offseason. And by the looks of it, Alvin did a pretty good job.
Yeah, well, and that's another reason why the Canucks won the offseason, right? They got one of the best GMs in the NHL. Been a long time since we said that. Whereas the Oilers just hired one of the biggest dirtbags in the NHL. So I think, Patrick Allvin deserves a ton of credit, man. And look, the thing about Patrick Allvin, he always talks about, work and process. And it's kind of the same with day-to-day life for everyone, right? If you're going to be successful, like you do got to have a process. You got to put in the work. And it seems like Patrick Allvin always has a plan B, C, and D. For that matter, right? Like, maybe plan A was to re-sign Lindholm and Zadorov, right? It sounded like they took a crack at both.
They
but
did.
If plan B is plan C, they worked out pretty good too. Time will tell on some of the contracts, but it sounds like Jake Debrusk, even Jim Rutherford said it recently that Jake Debrusk was a guy that Alvin targeted for a long time. Getting Daniel Sprong in late July for a bargain contract based on the season he had. Was a great deal. And, I think the offseason probably firmly deserves an A-, I'd say, for the amount of guys they were able to bring in, for getting rid of Mikheyev. The defense is still a question mark, obviously, but overall, I think you got to love what Patrick Allvin's done for the Vancouver Canucks. And you mentioned it on Thursday's show, Kyle, like there were some predictions from Jay Fresh that the Canucks might be one of the best, like the best team in the NHL next season, according to Jay Fresh's model. So, and that's all because Patrick Allvin has done just a fantastic job of, bringing in guys, always having a plan, and adding to the depth of this team to insulate the star power, which is something this organization failed to do for a decade.
You know what's interesting about all this? Like, the whole Stan Bowman thing, the whole notion that the Oilers just hired a pretty disrespectful GM, or in the eyes of many, like it's just the wrong move. And this guy's a quote unquote douchebag, blah, blah, blah. Screw second chances. Like, the rhetoric is out there, all this stuff. And, again, what's the math on here? Like 17 months ago, I'm not saying we're calling Rutherford and Alvin douchebags, but me and you are at Elisa, ironically, Francesco's restaurant the day after Bruce Boudreau's crying on the bench, and we're questioning the integrity of our organization based on the guidance of those two guys. You know what I'm saying? And here we are praising ultimately their ruthlessness. You know what I'm saying? And after the season ended, I think it was like one day after, Satir Shah, who, I mean, he's up there with Rick Dhaliwal when it comes to like most plugged guys. Like I wouldn't be surprised if one of those guys become an assistant GM for the Vancouver Canucks. Like they're just plugged up. They're saying all the right things. And immediately Sat said that, right? Like Alvin's going to be ruthless this summer. And in my opinion, he was. He didn't budge. He never budged. It probably would have taken $25,000 more to get Zadorov to stay here. You know what I'm saying? He didn't budge though.
Yeah.
It's different out here, man. It's different.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it was actually the day that Bruce Boudreau got fired that you and I were at Francesco Aquilini's restaurant, man, believe it or not. But the Canucks have come a long ways. And, maybe they're halfway there to winning that Stanley Cup, man, from that time a year and a half ago to now, man. Maybe they're, again, 2025, 2026. Again, Canucks got a 3-year window. I've been saying for a long time. And, we'll see if they can hit it here.
I want the Oilers so bad in the playoffs. You know what? Let's talk about that on the other side. We're not talking about these other Pacific Division teams, man. Screw this, okay? I want the Oilers on the other side. Let's read some comments. Let's get this rivalry brewing in July again. Why not? Because F the Oilers, man. 24/7, F the Oilers. Anyways, Trevor Beggs, who we shouting out before we get to that?
No ad read for me, but just a reminder, we're looking for local sponsors head into next season. If you or a friend has a business and you're looking for some advertising opportunities, if you want to make me your little biatch, I will do an ad read for you. So reach out to us on Twitter, or if you want some contact info, hey, I'll knock on your door, baby. Again, you listen to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day.
People, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks. Trevor Beggs, Kyle Bowman. Doing our thing, man. Hit the like button, subscribe to the show. If you're listening to this on the podcast side, leave us a 5-star review. Christmas is coming up, and Trevor Beggs and Kyle Bowman. Again, we're getting old in this thing called life, man. 31 and a half years old, erectile dysfunction, blah, blah, blah. Happy wife, happy life. All those things matter. And the more ratings, the more likes we get, dude, I'm trying to get my girlfriend, something nice for Christmas, man. Maybe, I don't know. What should I get her? What should I get her? A Canucks jersey? Should I do that?
Yeah, why not,
Some
man?
Canucks lingerie? Some Canucks lingerie with the Canucks logo over the, you know what I'm saying? How about that? Boom, boom. That would be nuts, dude. That would be nuts if you were making love like while the Canuck game was on. You know what I'm saying?
You haven't knocked that one off the bucket list yet, buddy?
Dude, I don't even make love listening to music because two of me and my friends make music. And like one time that was happening, and before you knew it, like one of my friends was singing in the background. And it was just mad awkward. Anyways, let's get to the comments, man. Let's get to the comments. The comments are everything, man. They fuel this show. Sometimes they do all the production. Now look at this from KD, okay? The Canucks got significantly worse. I'm pretty sure this guy's an Oilers fan. Bro, again, you know what? At the end of the day, it's a lot of wait and see. The Canucks and this organization and this coaching staff and this core, they've only done it for 1 year. And they did lose Lindholm and Zadorov. Like, those are two important pieces in the playoffs. There's going to be a bit of a transition period. And for them to get out of it is going to take a lot of work, you know? You know what I'm saying? So, again, optically speaking, I could see why a lot of people in the NHL, they could be respecting the Canucks, but they could also be like, yo, they lost some pieces, man. And also, Patterson's not that good. There's that rhetoric out there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I mentioned in that first segment, but most playoff teams get worse in the offseason, right? It's just a kind of what happens when you live in a cap environment, right? And I think both the Oilers and the Canucks slightly improved. I think the Canucks up front, they definitely improved, and their defense took a hit. The Oilers, I think it's a similar story. I think their forwards, I may even been a bit of a wash. I did talk about kind of that, third line center hole. But let's just say that their forwards improved with Skinner and Arvidson, and their defense took a hit as well, with losing a guy there like Desharnais, Vinny D, baby. But yeah, overall, I think, neither team improved drastically, but I think the Canucks improved maybe just a tad more than the Oilers did.
You know what? Devil's advocate, I don't know how much the Oilers defense got worse by replacing Desharnais with that Brown dude. Just because, I don't know, man. I was watching some highlights yesterday from the Oilers Canucks series, like all the games that we won, and Desharnais went from playing to a healthy scratch, and rightfully so. Okay, Desharnais is definitely an experiment. Just again, a lot of Oilers fans were happy that they were sad to see the person go. But they were happy that the Oilers didn't pay Desharnais that much. Anyways, more comments. What else do we got here? Boom, bam, boom, bam, boom, bam. How about this? Bob Bluger, okay? I can't wait to see the Draisaitl trade. Dude, everyone is hoping for this on the West Coast, man. If you hate the Oilers and you're not one of those phony Canucks fans who put on an Oilers jersey in June to support Canada's team, you are just hoping somehow, some way that the rumors are not true and Draisaitl does not get extended. What would you put the percentages at Draisaitl getting extended, and what do you think's the ultimatum for him?
Okay, well, the dick in me wants to say that there's a 90% chance he gets traded, but no, I think it's more likely that he signs, right? There's kind of a lot of smoke around that right now. Mm-hmm. That number of $13.8 million was even out there as well, and that would make him the highest paid player in the NHL, for at least a short period of time, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, look, it's certainly possible, but I lean towards the Draisaitl McDavid probably staying, as much as I want to be a dick about it. This team almost won the Stanley Cup. I think they're starting to believe in each other, starting to believe in the core. But if that changes this season, maybe with a couple of bad Stan Bowman moves or some bad juju in the locker room, then maybe we're talking about a different story. But until I see otherwise, I mean, this is an Oilers team that is pretty damn close to winning the Stanley Cup.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to play these guys in the playoffs, man. Is that something that you're not praying for, but praying for? You know what I mean? I really want that again. I want that 100%. Again, whether it be in the first round or second, it doesn't matter. I just want to play the Oilers every year in the playoffs because sports, man, they're fun, and I just want the chance, man. I want the chance to put another nail in that coffin, right? Even if Draisaitl and McDavid do stay forever, it'd be so funny if they never won.
Yeah, and look, this is a benefactor of the current playoff format, right? Some people love it, some people hate it. I've been more of a hater, but I kind of love the idea of the Oilers and Canucks meeting up again in the playoffs. And right now, look, I don't care if it's July 30th, 2024. I think the Canucks and the Oilers are already on a crash course to meet in round 2 of the 2025 playoffs. Because, yeah, we didn't touch on this episode, but I think the Kings got worse. I think Vegas got worse. I think Seattle, I don't love what they did, right? The Oilers and Canucks, in my mind, are the cream of the crop in the Pacific Division. And sure, there could be upsets, something could happen, but I truly do think these teams are easily 1 and 2 in the Pacific Division, and that they're on a crash course to meet in the spring of 2025.
And that leads me to say this, man. If you're listening or watching the Locked On Canucks, bro, we got you, man. We got you, man. We said it early, man. We said it last October that this was going to happen, that this rivalry was going to start, you know? And then we had some people saying, oh, they're already rivals. What are you talking about? They're already rivals. Like, dude, no, they're not. They're not. Not until they meet in the playoffs, not until both these teams are good. And we predicted that. Another thing we predicted, and again, Locked On Canucks, not to pump our own tires, but why not, man? It's just expensive out there. I'm going to pump my own tires. Bro, a couple weeks ago, we talked about Henrik and Daniel training with the Elias Pettersson. What did Rutherford say a couple weeks later? That's going to happen. So you're at the right place, man. You're Canucks every day, assuming, saying random stuff, and sometimes it just sticks, bro. Sometimes it gets sticky over here on Locked On Canucks, okay? Kyle Bowman, Trevor Beggs, hit the like button, okay? Right now, hit the like button. If this video gets 50 likes, Trevor Beggs will rip off one of his nipples, okay? Also, leave us a review on the podcast side. Give us a 5-star review. Again, we're trying to line up some sponsors, and it's not all about the money. I don't care about the money. I just care about happy wife, happy life, okay? The more and more I get older in life, I just realize that, and my girl's not even materialistic. It's just like, I need to take my girl on more dates, man. Because happy wife, happy life, okay? And next year, I'm going to be watching a ton of hockey again. So, happy wife, happy life. Beggsy, sign us out.
Straight up. Shout out to the everydayers, the occasional listeners, the first-time listeners, the new subscribers, and those of you who join us on the live show on YouTube. Wherever you're listening, whenever you're listening, we appreciate each and every one of you. We got you lined up all week. If you follow us on YouTube or subscribe on YouTube, you'll see the itinerary of episodes. A little Philip Peronic talk, a little Liz Huglander talk, all coming up this week on Locked On Canucks. Stay tuned, stay subscribed for that. But for now, we got to get out of here. I'm Trevor Beggs. That guy's Kyle Bowman. And you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.